Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to talk this morning. As I was kindly introduced, my name is Chris Payne. I work within EY. You'll see from the title. What I'm going to try and do this morning very briefly in about 10 or 15 minutes is try and make the link, bring you perhaps a lens of what's happening in technology linked into the insurance side of things, specifically the marine insurance side of things, and then make that link back to yourselves and most of the interested parties in the room. Just in terms of my background, very briefly, I've been with EY 15 years and really been at the forefront of driving a lot of the new technology work that we've been doing in the market. We've all heard about the words, fintech, disruption, and so on. And it's interesting, if you look at this through an insurance lens, some of the greatest levels of actual innovation that we've been seeing in the insurance market have actually been within the marine area. Not within motor, not within household, but actually in marine. And I think that's brought a massive focus from the EY perspective and some of the partners that we're working with and some of the partners that are in the room today. So hopefully today I'm just setting a bit of a scene and a theme for how these things converge and come together, because I think one of the big themes here is really around convergence. Okay, so what is happening? I mean, I think we're all aware of the fact that there's a larger level of sort of what we would call connected devices, the Internet of Things, all of that phrasing that we've heard. And what it's driving is what we would call a sort of a technology revolution. Now, the technology is ready. I think the challenge is, and we'll try and sort of build on this, is how is this adopted? How do you actually drive adoption of new technology into a market like this? I listened intently to the speeches before, and I guess I'm not a specialist on shipping, but what I picked up on was there's a strong theme around your levels of investment in technology, the higher levels of regulation, and the implications of that. And that's not dissimilar to many of the other industries that we work within. I think what's interesting is what is the role of technology in helping to monitor and drive that and to improve, if you like, the financial situation of the market that you're operating in. And I think that's just worth exploring. So what are we seeing in the market? I mean, from an insurance perspective, marine insurance is known as a line of business where the insurers are not making money. So we use the term an underwriting profit. So if I'm writing business in marine insurance and I'm making a loss, that's clearly not a good thing. In the old days, you could take that premium, reinvest it, and make a return. But basically, marine insurance, from an insurance perspective, is tending to be a loss-making business. So there is clearly a need here to understand how that can be improved through the role of data and the role of technology. And of course, what are the benefits that brings to you, the actual market? Where is the upside for you in all of this? Because we're clearly seeing greater competition and increasing costs because you're having to embrace a lot of new things that need to be implemented. So, the scene set here is that this is a tough market with increasing competition, and there is a need for some sort of change, some sort of game-changing situation. So technology is one part of that. But if everybody embraces the technology, then nothing really changes. So I think the big theme that we're working on is we're trying to work with the major insurers to improve the way they understand risk. So if they understand risk better, we'll actually see that linkage through to a stronger market, a better market, where in collaboration, both the insurers and the shipping players are actually hopefully making a better return. So what do we mean by that? So we've termed this the new normal. So I'll try and bring to life what I see as sort of old world and new world, and then a little bit about how I think we can get there. So, lovely quote here. You have to sort of read it through a little bit before you kind of get it, but it's basically saying that the new normal is that a lot of the things we didn't know about are now known. They're known because we're using data and technology to capture much more information and to harness that into insight. And I think that's fundamental within the marine insurance market. So when we talk about the new normal, sort of new world and old world, I guess the old world, risk was understood and written based on demographic data, as it still is, in fact. If you go and talk to the major insurers in the London market, in London where I'm based, this is still generally how they're operating. So it's based on, vessel class. You guys know all this stuff. Year of build, flag, speed rating, and so on. These are the factors on which risk is understood and priced. The new world around this use of sort of sensor-based technology, as I said, and I'll touch on some of the players that are really creating up what I think is a kind of groundbreaking capability here. It's much more around behavioral data. It's about understanding and taking and harnessing that data from the sensors and then reflecting that in the way that you underwrite, the way that you understand risk. We've done some studies, some POCs with some of the major insurers, and it's unbelievable. We've taken their existing data, their existing claims data. We've run further analysis through some of the behavioral data sources that we have. And if you made the same underwriting or business-based decisions on the old data and the new data, the financial impact in a positive sense for the insurer is quite phenomenal. So we think this is something that is going to be adopted. So I guess the theme for the insurers and perhaps the theme for your industry is that doing nothing is not an option. There's going to be winners and losers in this. I think this is going to be about speed of adoption. General observation I see is that if you operate in that market in London, there is a natural resistance to change. So the winners will be those that actually take that initiative and move forward. So key message from me is really that behavior is the key to understanding risk, and that data holds the key to that behavior. So whoever can harness that more effectively is going to be ultimately the winner in the market. So once you understand that, you understand the risk. So summarizing, we're seeing a sort of seismic change. I still think we're in quite early days on this, but the technology's ready. But really we're moving to a world of what I would call sort of connected policies. So what's a connected policy? I mean, a connected policy is that the data and the things and the information that you're capturing is actually reflected into, and you get a benefit from that, from the policy that's written. So I think we don't have that yet, but I think we're moving to a place where these new rating factors are actually, you are rewarded for them, they're better understood. So in theory, you should be paying, a more competitive premium for the cover on your insurance risk. And by the same token, the insurer should be seeing an upside because they're simply making better informed decisions. We ran a POC recently where the underwriter, the insurer, did not realize that really 40% of their major claims and losses were coming from one or two ports in terms of the book of business that they were writing. So I think the data and the insight is really unlocking a completely different understanding of the business that they're in and what they should be pricing and committing to. So I guess there's three areas. Kind of hard to read, my apologies on the white background, but effectively I guess there's sort of three areas where we see the data really flowing through and having a significant impact on this market. I think the first is around just actually understanding and identifying the different profit pools. And that was, as I mentioned, that's underwriters just understanding, frankly, what risk are they underwriting and what are the drivers of risk. The second one is really around the actual exposure monitoring. So this is using the technology to really understand where vessels are and again to understand where people are on or off risk. I think that's going to be an emerging trend. And then just this whole theme of active risk management. As I said, old world, new world. Old world, everything is really rearview mirror. It's looking backwards and making assumptions and using models to drive that. The new world, what we'll see really active real-time risk management where you're actually monitoring vessels, cargo and everything around the globe. You'll understand what it's doing and where it is, and that is going to give a completely different view of predictive behavior and what risk actually looks like. So what do I see as the future? I see a collaborative relationship, genuinely, between insurers and fleet customers. We're seeing that convergence already. We're seeing it through other initiatives like blockchain is a good example. But I think I think both areas are exciting, but I think the most exciting area is to actually fundamentally understand the business you're in and to use that data and insight more effectively. The blockchain, of course, is also absolutely key at the back end, and again changes the dynamics of the relationship and the sort of what I call broader operating model. But I think that collaboration should result in a better return generally, and of course the use of this technology to drive safer behaviour and reduce losses on the fleet side. So I guess the future belongs to those who own it. I think the challenge we're seeing in the London market within insurance is driving that change within the major players. And I think where EY is focused, and this is where I guess I'm making a link to some of the partners that we're working with. So our focus from an Ernst & Young perspective is we're trying to help the industry, and that's the insurers and of course the fleet companies. We're looking to try to drive that transformation, to drive that business change. And we're doing that in one or two ways. As I say, the industry is beginning to embrace what I call proofs of concept, looking to understand their data better, and then to harness those multiple data sets in an effective way. So what we're doing is we're working with organizations. We talk about these fintechs. My observation is a lot of the fintechs I've worked with, the problem has been nice piece of technology, clever idea, but how do you harness that into an existing organization? So it's almost like a solution looking for a problem. The difference here is that what we're seeing with organizations like Consiris and NRAM is Consiris is really harnessing all of this data into effective, very, very powerful game-changing software, which enables the insurers to understand, as I say, their decisioning in a much more positive way. So the EY role in that is that obviously we understand these organizations, we understand how to drive that change. So it's really moving people from that old world, which as I said was very much around demographic, to that new world. So what we're really stepping into right now is we're driving that dialogue with the major global insurers that are writing marine business, convincing them that actually the old world is not something where they will have a future, and to show them the benefit and the business case for moving to that new world. So from the Consiris side, it would be in that more effective underwriting. And I think from the NRAM side, and there'll be discussions on this later, on the NRAM side, it's much more around using the analytics and the data and their capability to monitor the actual performance of the vessels, which again, if you feed those two things in, you move to that world of what I'd call the connected policy, which is where actually that data is being harnessed into something that does reflect risk and does reflect the investments and benefits that, for example, the shipping companies are making in the regulation and some of the things that we heard earlier. Those things should be reflected in the price that you pay for your cover, for your insurance. So I think this is where we're heading. I notice I've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to sort of take any questions from there, but hopefully at least I've set a little bit of a scene of where we see technology, innovation, and data heading, the use of data, I should say, heading currently in the marine market. Thank you very much. So I've got about 1 minute, so if there's any particular questions that people have that they'd like to touch on, I'm happy to take those, or I'm going to bring us back, I think, bring us back on schedule. I think we were on schedule, but certainly keep us on time. So any questions at all?